Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. It's a minute after 2, and I want to thank you for being punctual as always. It's great that we can do this um, time and again. So today we are on part 2 of our 3-part webinar series, which is talking and sharing with you tips and additional help to build and to support your teaching practice. Um, Joining me, of course, today is Shoma as well to help with any of the questions, answers, as well as any of the chats. Um, my one request to you, if you're chatting and you're sharing some resources, it'll be really nice if you could send it and share it with everyone so that we all benefit. And of course, that's really the reason why we do all these webinars, is because we want to build a lovely communicative, collaborative teacher fraternity for all our teachers at Trinity College London. Just to remind you that this particular series of 3 webinars has been designed by our colleagues in the UK, and I'm facilitating and helping in delivering it to all of you. So on that note, I think we're ready to begin. Let us start. So in today's webinar, we are going to be looking at interaction. This is a very, very important part of live classrooms, and these elements of communicating, questioning, building rapport are central to keeping a session lively, a session which is communicative, and most importantly, as teachers, a session which gives us an insight into how our learners are doing, and also allows us opportunities to provide constructive feedback as we go along. So now, one of the first things that we need to keep in mind while having these interactions is to give clear instructions. I'm quite sure in some of your earlier classes, you may have experienced a small problem wherein without any clear instructions, all the students want to talk at the same time, or there is pin drop silence. So it's very important to give clear instructions, and in the initial few sessions to perhaps remind students often enough of these clear instructions. The other important thing is that we may be in a virtual world, but it's also very important to show your face often. I'm quite sure you've experienced this, that very often students tend to take it a little easy while online lessons are going on by muting their videos. And it's important that you set these ground rules very early on and be communicative from your end as well, so that they know that you're physically there and very much part of the class and all that is happening. The other thing that I'd like to advise you on is considering student behavior. So like I mentioned, so sometimes students use this opportunity to relax. And I'm sure you've encountered that quite often. But it's important to set the boundaries. Things like when they're allowed to chat, when they're allowed to change their virtual backgrounds, share screens, and so on. Like in any normal classroom, you must set this one ground rule fairly early on, which is that students treat fellow students with a degree of support, civility, and a constructive contribution to the classroom. Um, as we all know, very often we have learners who are not as outspoken or are a little reticent to be the first to get their answer in. But it's all the more important that now in this online environment that we give all an equal chance. And some of the ways to do that is to actually set the boundaries and set the limits. Now, that being said, there are times when students do lose a little bit of focus. So it's important that as teachers, we use various activities or interactions to keep the energy alive and to keep the classroom vibrant. And one such kind of activity to do is called the call and response. So this is kind of fun because every now and then, if you want to ensure that students are attentive enough, you could perhaps put out a call which says, 1, 2, 3, look at me. And this response should be 1, 2, looking at you. Or there are a variety of options and ways you could do this. Things like macaroni cheese, everybody freeze. Or you could say ready, set, and they say you bet. And you could also do the other fun things like hocus pocus, and they reply by saying time to focus. And of course, the last one, which is LIS, and the students complete the last 3 letters by saying TEN. So these are some of the ways in which you can do this. Another way, of course, is by clapping. And maybe over here, you could even shake it and mix it up a little bit by asking students to perform an action every time you request a question. So we have to go above and beyond simple things like, do you follow or can you hear me? To be able to actually say, if you can hear me, maybe put your hand on your nose. Or if you can, if you've understood what I've said, then please give us a salute. So it's these little, small little things, but I think they make a big difference to what we can do to keep our classrooms alive. Of course, we can go one step further and animate this even more. And I want to share with you a video designed by our colleagues in London to help build activities that draw on students' focus. So please let me share this video with you. Enjoy. My one request, dear teachers, is please, if you've kept a book and a pen handy, I think it'll be helpful for you to make notes as we go along. A lot of these videos have instruction within the video itself. So I think it would be helpful if you had a paper and pen handy. Here goes.
Good morning, class.
Good morning.
Is everybody ready?
Yes. Yeah.
Today I have a really fun activity to start off with. I'm sure you're going to love it. It's a scavenger hunt. Yeah. Okay, so the first person, Luigi, come back. That's better. Right, pay attention. So it's the first person to show me something blue. Blue. Okay, oh, no, Sylvia, that's something red. And Gorilla's won. Gorilla's got something blue. Well done, Gorilla. So 1 point for Gorilla.
Yeah.
Okay, back in front of the screens. Okay, and this time it's the first person to show me a toothbrush. Go. No, Sylvia, that's a nail brush. No, Gorilla, I don't know what that looks like, a chair. And it's Luigi! Well done, Luigi! And it's a point for Luigi. Okay, right. This is the final one. I want you to show me something you can put on your head. Go. Oh, that was well done, Luigi. I think that was Gorilla in the end. Gorilla was perhaps a fraction of a second before Sylvia.
Yeah.
Well, well done, everybody. Focus. 1, 2, 3. Look at me.
1, 2. Look at you.
We'll try that again. It's 1, 2, 3. Look at me.
1, 2. Look at you.
Perfect. Macaroni cheese.
Everybody freeze.
Ready, set.
You bet.
Hocus pocus.
Time to focus.
Class, class. Look. L-I-S.
E-N.
What does it spell?
Listen.
Right, everybody. So you know what to do. I'm going to clap and copy the clap. Okay. Okay, Sylvia, are you ready for your show and tell? What have you, and what have you brought today?
Wait a moment. This is my teddy. I love him. Mwah! He's got a sad face, but he's happy, really. He's brown and cuddly.
Okay, I think Luigi has a question for you.
Yes?
Linda,
Yes?
what is the name of your teddy?
Ah, Teddy's name is Teddy.
Okay, well, next week, remember, Luigi, it's your turn for show and tell, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play Simon Says. You ready?
Yay!
Simon Says, touch your nose. Simon Says, touch your ears. Simon Says, touch your head. Touch your mouth. No, only when Simon says.
Oh! Gorilla wins.
Gorilla wins. Well done, Gorilla. And we're going to do a guessing game.
Yay!
Yeah. I have a picture of an animal here, and I want you to guess what the animal is, but by asking me yes, no questions. So that's questions that begin with do, does, is, has, have. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you get the question right, you can ask another question. And if you get the question wrong, the next students ask. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Sylvia.
Is it a cat?
No, it's not a cat. Luigi.
Does it have big ears?
No, it doesn't. Gorilla.
Is it hairy?
No, it's not hairy.
Does it have
What?
feathers?
Yes, it has feathers, Luigi. Okay, so go on, another question for Luigi.
Yeah, is it a bird?
Yes, Luigi. So it's a bird, it has feathers. Go on, another question. Maybe think about where it lives.
Does it live in the jungle?
Sometimes, but very often it lives on the farm.
Is it a chicken?
No, it's not a chicken, Sylvia. It's similar to a chicken.
It's,
Okay, Luigi.
Does it like the water?
Yes, it loves the water.
Is it a swan?
Oh no, it's smaller than a swan. Gorilla?
Quack! Quack!
Exactly. And what goes quack quack?
I don't know what it's called. Is it a duck?
yay!
Quack! Quack! Quack!
Well done, Gorilla.
Nice picture.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Well, that's the end of the lesson. I hope you enjoyed it and see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye!
Bye.
Bye!
Bye.
Great. So you can see over here that these kind of activities, wherein when students participate, it also is not just an activity to keep it light, but it can be very constructive kind of activities that are getting students to use part of the language or eliciting answers by asking questions. So all these activities that can be done can be made a lot more lively and a lot more engaging by us thinking through what our students are experiencing and how can we better engage them. We must understand these are very trying circumstances, and teaching online is not the easiest scenario right now. Practically all lessons are happening online. So hence, the more amount of interaction that we can build with our learners using a variety of methods, the better and more exciting the learning will become. Now, we can also try additional things like physical warmers. So this could be a brief kind of physical warm-up, particularly if you're doing a drama class or some drama activity where you can ask students to jump or do a star jump or do a push-up. And of course, I think in this time to have some sort of activities going on is of course a great help. As you also saw, scavenger hunts are exceedingly a lot of fun. Now, it's important from our side that as much as these are fun activities for our learners, it's important for us to choose and think a lot of these activities through so that not just are they having fun, but they're also perhaps identifying, and maybe you are asking them to bring things that are part of their vocabulary building that is happening. And this can particularly apply to some of the earlier grades of Jessie. Similarly, you can also ask them to fetch a variety of things, and you can perhaps ask them to identify things like parts of the body by pointing out to it, and they in turn showing you perhaps either a picture of it, or if it's something on themselves, then themselves. Another kind of fun game is charades. So to conduct this kind of activity, you first need to mute everybody. Then you can send a private chat to one of the students with something that they are supposed to mime. And the student who writes in the answer first in the chat could perhaps be the winner. Now, I don't need to tell you, teachers, but awarding points is a great motivator for learners. And the minute something is gamified, it becomes exceedingly exciting. As you saw in the video, there was Simon Says as well, and guess who or what you are kind of activities. And of course, show and tell activities, which I'm sure many of you are already doing. A variation of that, of course, could also be by guessing the object that you just saw at the end of that video. So a lot of interesting games for you to use, and a lot of fun activities that you can build in to your classroom with just a little bit of imagination, of course, and keep the learning or the talking points to some of the instructional material that you are covering with them at that point in time in their lessons. Now, taking this further, you can also use a little bit of technology. And we all know that our young learners engage with technology very, very well. And some of us over the last few months have become a little more comfortable with the idea of using technology. And of course, there is so much of it available. So it's important to keep in mind that you choose to use something that you feel confident about. And thereafter, when you have mastered that, then perhaps to move on to the next element of technology. Now, one of the things that you could use are what we call virtual backgrounds. And virtual backgrounds can be a good alternative to screen sharing for individual contributions and for brief student-led presentations. So in cases like these, students can use their own photos or download free photographs from Wikipedia. And you can create the activity according to your students' ages and capabilities. So this can be done as a quick warm up or a focus shifter. It can also form part of a project researched by students individually at home or in pairs or groups in breakout rooms. And this can be used for any subject matter. You could also use this to brainstorm various backgrounds or how students can use various backgrounds. For instance, if you are perhaps teaching them maybe parts of the body, you could use a virtual background of being in a laboratory. Or if you're talking to them about animals, then you could perhaps use a virtual background of being, let's say, in a forest. So there are a lot of interesting ways to do this, and I want to share with you some of these videos going forward. But I thought I'd just talk you through the various technologies that you could use. So one is virtual backgrounds. The other, of course, is Kahoot. Many of you, I think, are already using Kahoot. And for those of you who are not, this is a game-based learning platform. And in order to play, students will need to access a mobile phone or a tablet, aside from what they are using to interact with you. And in Kahoot, there are tons of user-generated material, which includes multiple choice questions, quizzes, and these can be accessed via a web browser or the Kahoot app. And the lovely thing about online learning and online teaching, particularly now, is that you've seen a lot of content generated by other teachers, which can be shared. So you as a teacher can perhaps create your own. You can maybe even borrow another teacher's material. And all of this has already been done in advance. And I must say a lot of these activities are designed towards English language teaching. So it's important to use all these to create an element of dynamism in your classroom. I want to also talk about another one, which is called Bamboozle. So this is another website that provides games to play together in teams or individually. And especially if students do not have that second device that Kahoot needs, this is especially helpful. And just like Kahoot, it's perfect to use as a warm-up, as a review, or to shift focus and so on. Again, you can access others' games that have been created or make your own. Now, with both these platforms, you need to check games through before using, because by their very definition, because it is user-generated content, there could sometimes be a couple of errors, or at times you might want to just check to ensure that the content is learner appropriate. And of course, this was, of course, the augmented 3D reality and some images of a virtual background. But I want to actually share with you some of these videos so that you can see how it can be adapted, and quite effortlessly you can start to engage with these kind of technologies. So let me just share with you a video on how using virtual backgrounds. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to make some notes, please feel free to do that.
Okay, let's have a quick look at using virtual backgrounds. Why? Because kids love using them, they're fun, they're easy, easier to teach young children than screen sharing, for example, and that allows them more autonomy, more opportunities for personalisation, as we're going to see. Okay, if you're on a video conference like Zoom, you go into virtual background and you'll see you've got a choice of photos. You probably know this, but it's something you need to teach the kids. So we're on none at the moment. I'm going to take this picture. Oh no, what's happened? What has happened is that the camera is not detecting my background colour. So what you have to do is click here. As they say, they will detect the colour, and then click into the background colour. Now I have green, it's just a curtain, but you can use any colour, any similar colour. Green works best, and it can be a wall, paper, cardboard. You'll have to experiment, but green works best if possible. Get them to get something green. If not, blue works pretty well too. So then we click, oh, and always tick, I have a green screen, even if you don't. Okay, then click in the background colour, and you'll see we are now in my terrace. So I could now start describing my terrace. There are lots of plants and flowers. There's a table, there's a chair, etc., etc. It's nice because it gives some information and I'm sharing. But what can we use it for these students? Well, many things. If we think about low-level students, for example, Trinity Grade 1 or very many different exams, they often start with animals. So why not get them to upload pictures of their pets? For example, here's my cat. Her name's Clover. She's brown and white and black with green eyes, etc., etc. So if all the kids put up a picture of their pet or a family pet or a pet they'd like to have, and if you get the kids to do gallery view on the screen, then you can get many, many animals, and you can also practice numbers. How many cats are there? How many dogs, etc. Wild animals is another area. So again, each kid could choose a wild animal to put up as their backdrop at the given signal. Depending on your class size, you may want to do a few children every class, as in the presentation. This is a tiger, it lives in India, etc. Or you may want to put them in breakout rooms where they can share with each other. Another typical area to talk about, of course, is family. Everyone's got photos of their family these days. So this is my brother, and this is my sister, etc. And of course, talking about your house, your rooms, your furniture. Here's my sitting room. There's a big orange sofa, a small orange chair, and a table. So you could give the children a room each to talk about, to do a little mini presentation. As I said, it doesn't always have to be on the same day. If they don't want to use their own house, they can find pictures on Wikipedia. Moving on from the initial stage of classes to slightly more advanced, when they're talking about the past and they're describing their holidays, a perfect opportunity again to personalize. Simple, saves messing about with screen sharing, and more students get to present. So this was my last holiday to Tamil Nadu, and this is a place called Nagarcoil in the south, etc., etc. So far, I've just been using mostly my own photos, but if you go onto Wikipedia, you can download pretty much anything you like. I'll show you in a moment how to check it's royalty free. And here's another activity I like for a very quick change of focus in the lesson. Everybody to have a city ready on their virtual background and try to get the others to guess, similar to 20 questions. So, for example, is that in the United States? No, it isn't. Is it Europe? No, it isn't. So, do they speak English in that country? Yes, they do, quite a lot. Is it in Asia? Can you give us a clue? Yes, I can. It is, of course, Mumbai. So that's a fun guessing game to stick in here and there in the class. Finally, let's have a quick look at where you can find material for these photos if the kids don't have or don't want to use their own, or if you need something different. So we'll go to Wikipedia. And you can see here, I've got Wikipedia animal photos. Now you could put any category of photos. A lot of the pictures on this site are royalty free. You can also Google for royalty free, public domain photos. But let's have a look at one of these. Okay, so I think, oh, that's an interesting one. I click on it. It comes up, I see it's a Wikipedia one. Click again to open the page. And click again on the photo. Then you'll have this pop up, more details. If you click on more details and page down, it will tell you if you're allowed to share the photo or not. So if you're doing it for something more official within your school, you'll want to give the credits here. But this is the important thing, Creative Commons attribution share alike. You are free to share, to copy, distribute, and transmit the work. So if you do it just for your class, it's as simple as that. If you want to do it in something published, you'll need to give credit. Okay, so then you go back to the picture. You can do it here if you want to choose your size. I'll choose full resolution. Right click, save image as, and there it is, the gigantic Aldabra giant tortoise. So I'll save that to my desktop. And of course, with a picture like this, you'd expect perhaps a little presentation on the tortoise. For example, this tortoise lives in the Galapagos. It's a giant tortoise. It can live for up to 250 years old. Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll have lots more ideas of how you can exploit virtual backgrounds, but I hope that's got you started at least.
Great. So using virtual backgrounds, of course, is exceedingly a lot of fun. And I'm sure you in your classes have seen students without much prompting are very keen and eager to keep changing their backgrounds almost of their own accord. But here again, there's no point in swimming upstream. Children love using it. So I think it's important that we use that and embrace that to actually get it to be a learning aid. So as you've just seen in this video, it's exceedingly well done. The children can actually use this to talk about their homes or to make a presentation. And of course, they also feel better empowered and better enabled because they're using some element of technology, which of course is also an inescapable fact of the world we live in today. So if they can embrace it and we can all benefit from it in our learning, then why not? Which brings me to, of course, another tool that you can use, which is called Kahoot. Just a note over here that we must keep in mind that in this day and age that it's important that not all our students may be having strong internet bandwidth connections. So please, as much as we are sharing all of this with you, you need to make that final call and decide whether a student's internet connection will support a virtual background. And if it doesn't, then that's not a problem, all right? But there are other different technologies, of course, also available. Let's look at one such other one, which is called Kahoot. I know a lot of schools already use this, and perhaps you are also using it. But nonetheless, it bears repeating, and hence we've kind of created a little bit of a video to talk you through how you could use Kahoot.
So let's have a look at Kahoot. It's a games-based learning platform. First thing you'll need to do is create an account. And as you can see, you just Google Kahoot and you will be able to sign up as a teacher, student, socially or at work. Choose a plan. It's free, although later there is a premium account as well. So the thing with Kahoot is that in order to play, your students will need access to a second device, a mobile phone or a tablet. So if you haven't got that, we'll be looking at Bamboozle afterwards, which you don't need any extra device for. But Kahoot is extremely popular, so let's have a look at it. At the moment, they're offering Premium Plus, as you'll see, for a year's membership, but you don't need to worry about that. I've got Premium for Schools, which at the moment is free until the end of September, but otherwise you can use just the basic Kahoot. So you'll get your page, you'll see you've got various opportunities here. If we go to Discover, you can look for Kahoots about anything you like. So let's take a grammatical one for fun. And you'll get lots of games coming in that have been made by other teachers, but also by students. So I can't stress strongly enough that if you want to do a quiz, you need to have a look at it and make sure it isn't full of mistakes, because some of them are made by students and haven't been checked. So you open it up, have a look through the questions. You can see here the answers view, so you can check it through beforehand. This one seems to be bona fide. Okay, and then you can play. When you play, you can do it in teach mode, which means playing a live game with the learners in class, synchronously, or in assign mode, where you'll be given a code that you can then email to your students or post on Edmodo so they can go there and play it at their own pace. So let's have a look at both options. We'll look at assign first. So when you assign a challenge, you can set a date limit, a time limit. You can decide to have a question timer. I often use the timer in class and take it off for a challenge at home or in their own time because it gives them time to think about it and takes off the stress. Personalised learning, you'll want it on because later you'll get your review of the results. This is up to you. And then you create it. And you'll see you can either copy the URL or simply post the PIN number, and then people can join as they like. The other thing you can do, if you go to Kahoots, when you do a search and you think, I like the look of that one, but not for now, you can make a favourites list, which is very useful. Because you're only going to put in your favourites list ones you've checked that don't have mistakes, and then you've got something at your fingertips when you want to shift a focus in the class and you want it to be a bit fun. So it can be grammatically based. There's all sorts of things here, vocab based, different kinds of things, written, grammar. I've got a mixture here. Trivial quiz for when I just want something different. Or a guess the city quiz, which they could also make with the photos they've downloaded for their virtual backgrounds. Okay, so let's play one. We'll choose one that's a bit fun for you. Okay, this is guess the city. So this time we'll do teachers play as opposed to assign. I'll do the classic mode because for the team mode you need shared devices, and if everyone's in a separate place we'll need the classic mode. And they're going to give us a code which I will enter on my mobile phone. You do have to download the app. That's quiet as possible. Okay, so I'm going to put in my code 604122 and my nickname, let's put Chris, and here we are. And now you'll see I've entered the game. So each of your students will enter the game with the code on their mobile or tablet, and here's the game. So this would be a filler, general knowledge, and it's quite fun. This one you get a reveal. Oh, I think we know what's coming there. So I choose, and indeed it's Rome. Just do one more to give you the idea. This could be many things. But now I see that tall building, I think it must be. And it was. If you get it wrong, it doesn't matter. It simply goes on to the next one, and at the end you get a podium. I'm not going to show you the whole game, but you get the idea. You get a podium at the end and see who came first, second and third, and again you'll get the results. You can also set it so that any they got wrong they can redo afterwards. Okay, there's more on that on the assessment module. Okay, so I shall leave you there with London. So to create a quiz or a Kahoot, you go to Create and a new Kahoot. And it's very simple. Click to start typing your questions. So we'll do a grammatical one this time. If we had more time. And we need 4 answers. I show you more activities. I show you more activities. I showed you more activities. I had showed you more activities. And we click the correct one, which of course is dun, 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 this one. Okay, you can drop an image from your computer if you want to. You could use it from the image library. Let's take one of those. Okay. Or you can upload your own photo. You can set a time limit, the points. You can have a single select. In this case, only one of the answers is correct. Or you could have multi-select because there may be more than one option with some questions. Add question. You can choose different types. We could have a true and false the second time. Blah, 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 blah. When it's done, you just click here. This isn't done because you need more questions, so I shall keep it as a draft. And it's that simple, really, for teachers or for students. Okay. Okay, and after you've played the game, you will get a review. I've looked into this more on the assessment webinar, but basically you've got various options. You can do it by players. You can think, Sarah didn't do very well there. Let's look at what went wrong. Then you can check which answers she got right, got wrong. Or you can think, maybe this quiz was very difficult. Let's look at the questions. And we can see what percentage of students got each question correct. So it's a good way of following through. You can also then look at the difficult questions, and from there you can compile a quiz just from the difficult questions. Okay.
So in this particular video, we see that you can not just use this technology for teaching English language, you can actually use it for teaching pretty much any subject under the sun. In fact, yesterday, one of the teachers in their feedback requested, do you have any sort of activities that you could use in science? Well, yes, actually, all of these become easily amenable to whatever subject you're teaching. So long as we are clear what we want to get out of it. The Kahoot is just one website. In the past, we've shared names of others, and we will continue to share many, many more going forward. But it's really about how you want to use these technologies with a lot of user-generated content already existing on the website to actually customize what you're doing to suit your own classroom. I realize it's little after 2:45, and my apologies for that, but if you don't mind, these are interesting videos, so I will ask for your indulgence in time, please. We have a couple more just to share with you, and then of course we will wrap up the session. The next one and the one after is also very interesting. And I'd like to share with you on how you can use Bamboozle.
A good alternative to Kahoot, if the students don't have access to a certain device, like a mobile phone or a tablet, is Bamboozle. As it says here, no student's account needed, suitable for all ages, 100% free to use. And you can make educational games for your students, played from one device. So let's go in there. Here's the library of games made by teachers. So you know they're going to be pretty correct, although it's always still a good idea to look at them before you use them in class. There's many, many games there. You can do it by search. So let's say giving advice. And you'll get a good selection on games for giving advice, should, shouldn't, etc. If you like a game, let's say this one, let's have a look. That looks pretty good. I think I'll save that to my favourites. So you can go to your favourites. As in Kahoot, you save them as you go. These are all ones I've selected before for those moments in class when I want to change focus or when I want to further explore vocabulary or check the grammar. Here we have various ones. So let's play one so you can see the difference with Kahoot. We could play summer. So here's the preview of the game. As you can see, it's not multiple choice. There's just one answer, and it is teacher-centered as opposed to Kahoot. So let's play. You can make teams depending on how many people there are in your class. Let's leave it for the moment as 2 teams and 16 questions. As you can see, there's a choice. I prefer just the quiz questions only because the power-ups are random extra points which don't go down very well with the students. And I don't think you really need to worry about the simple scoring. So there we have Team 1 and Team 2. Team 1 starts. This protects my head from the sun, so the team decide what's it called. Is it a hat? Is it a cap? You can set a time limit, which I didn't do this time, but you can. So this would be counting down from 10 to 1, and they have to make their choice, and they tell you cap. And you check, and it's correct. Team 2. Again, the team decides together what they're going to say, and let's say they tell you beach. I'm afraid not. It's a swimming pool. The points are all added up, and at the end there's a winning team and a losing team, and it's all good fun. Okay, let's come out of there and go to creating a game. It's very simple. You just click Make Game here. Here's one I started earlier. So we see I've only done 1 or 2 questions so far. What's Edmodo? And educational and online classroom. Let's make a new one. Okay, so you give it a title. You can upload images as with Kahoot, and you give a brief description to help other teachers find it in the search. And then you just make the game. So it's a 1 question, 1 answer game. So let's call this, well, we'll continue with the online teaching. Here. It's about surviving in the online classroom. Make the game. Now you just add the questions. So, what's a good way to shift students' attention? And the answer, play an online quiz. You can put up a picture if you want. Not going to worry now. Okay, so it's as simple as that. So I hope you'll find games that will suit your students here. I'm sure you will. Okay, let's leave it there.
So of course, gaming is obviously the way to go with a lot of students. Now, there's one other very interesting way to do this is with augmented reality. And this is a great way, particularly with things like animals. And you can actually bring this live onto your phone. Of course, there are some specifications, but I think all the phones that everybody has these days will automatically comply with them. And apart from just having fun with augmented reality, you can actually take and save the videos or the photographs. So there are many ways in which you can use these 3D animals. You can film them, you can talk about them, children can do a show and tell. And Google has actually done this, it's completely free. In fact, that link right at the bottom on your screen actually will give you help on how to use it if you're using a phone, an Android phone, or if you're using a computer, or if you're using an Apple phone that they've got. Now, an interesting way to also do this is to, actually, why don't I just share the video with you and then talk to you about it a little later.
So if you're desperate for something to pacify your kids with, how about Google's 3D AR animals? Wondering what they are? Well, we're going to show you all of them and how you can enjoy essentially an entire zoo in your pocket. Thanks for watching 9to5 Google on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe and enable notifications with the bell icon to be among the first to watch our upcoming videos. So if we cast our minds back at I/O 2019, Google announced a ton of new AR features, taking advantage of some of the tech they've been working on that fuses 3D animals and objects into augmented reality. We will need a couple of things before we get started. That is an Android phone or iPhone running Android 7.0 or iOS 11 or higher. You need to open Google search, and we suggest you doing so in Chrome, and type in one of the 24 animals listed to view them in full 3D. When they're in this AR mode, you can drag them around, pinch to zoom, and they'll even make realistic grunts, groans and growls, making them ideal for learning about animals in a fun way while stuck at home. Here's every single one of the 24 animals that you can bring right into your house without needing to head outside.
So you can see in this video how you can use animals at various ways. You can use this, for instance, for storytelling. I mean, stories like the tiger who came to tea. You could show students video clips of you having tea with the tiger. You could get students to perhaps pose with one of those 24 animals that Google has and have them do a show and tell. So there are very many ways in which you can use this. A lot of them just with a little bit of imagination from our part, things, stories like The Lion and the Mouse, or even any of the Aesop's fables, can all be easily brought to life using augmented reality. And this is of course free, and as you can see from the video, one can actually resize it and bring it into your living room or into the classroom. So this is, of course, great technologies to use. So I won't take you through all of this. I think you get the idea. All you need to do is just search for augmented reality on Google, and you will get a lot of information about this. So let's move forward from here. The next part that we want to talk about is building rapport. And this is exceedingly necessary for any classroom, particularly during online classrooms. It tends to be a little bit more difficult than when you're doing it face to face. But we must keep in mind, and I'm sure you know this as a teacher, is that building rapport is perhaps central to learning and learning well. And it's not something that is built up easily and overnight. It takes a little bit of time. And it most importantly involves making students feel exceedingly comfortable. So here are a couple of activities that you can do to initially get students to be communicative or to open up with ideas. For instance, you could draw this little bubble or this little cloud, and you could mention words that are relevant to you. So you could perhaps write Japanese, and you can write Seville and words that are on the screen. And essentially over here, students start to ask you questions. Is Japanese your favorite food? Or have you been to Seville? And what is surfing? So you get a chance to, in a very hand-holding way, have students take the initiative. And more importantly, you can choose words that again are part of what you wish to be teaching them in the first place. So again, building rapport can be done through a little bit of gamification, through a little bit of content that you want to cover with them, and more importantly, through students taking the first step or students taking the initiative. I'm sure you know that if you go and walk into a classroom and try and elicit a question or an answer from a child, it's not very easy, as opposed to if you pique their curiosity levels. I often do this in communication, where I literally walk into a classroom and draw something on a board, and I act like I can't speak. And very often students are the first to come out and be helpful and say, ask questions about what I've drawn on the board. So we can use this as a great way to build rapport. Another such way, and this is perhaps for older students, is there is something called eltbuzz.com prompts, which has a series of questions. The students can get into smaller groups, into breakout rooms, and can discuss. And here you want to encourage students to ask follow-up questions depending on what they've heard. So it's like an online version of the activity Tell Us About. So this is again another way in which you can elicit communication, or the communicative ability can be built up by using some of these techniques and ways. So building rapport. All right, another classroom favorite that can be done online is write 5 sentences about yourself, and students guess if they are true or false. Once you've told them the answers, you can look at the structure of the sentences and remind students of the verb patterns. Example, hope plus to do something. Or you can use used to plus verb, etc. So using the same stems, students write similar things, and in breakout rooms, the students, you can encourage them to guess if what their classmates have written is true or false. So higher levels could, of course, you could practice things like verbs plus prepositions and so on. So these are just some ideas to help you. This, of course, for instance, is letter writing. And of course, here you need to just check if you have your own practice, then it's fine. But where you have the interaction with the parent and have the consent for the child to be able to write a letter to you, it gives you a great opportunity for you to see what is firsthand, what is the child's ability to write and put words into thoughts. But of course, it's important over here that if you're teaching in a school, that you have consent of the school to be able to do something like this. The beauty about all of these things is that you can actually take this information and put it onto something like an Edmodo or onto the whiteboard in Zoom or whichever platform you're using. And this can then, by perhaps blanking out the names, you can then use this as basis for adding instruction or explaining for the benefit of all the students, not just the student who wrote this letter to you, but you can keep them anonymous and you can still discuss the issues that are coming up, not just among that one student, but perhaps among many other students. Now, another way to also do this is through forums. And creating forums on your preferred learning platforms such as Edmodo is a great way to engage with students, and more importantly, for them to engage and interact with each other. Now, forums are really useful for gathering students' thoughts and ideas on topics, as well as in an informal self-study or homework tasks that don't need to be individually marked can be done through this. But it's important that you follow these tips for setting up a forum by having clear start and end dates, by writing down the activities and the icebreaker activities, creating groups which are of the right size, giving clear and simple instructions for the forum, pre-populating the forum with some initial prompts so that it can take off in that direction, and so on and so forth. I'm quite sure you've already read the rest of the points, so I won't take you through that. So these are just some tips on how to set up a forum so that it's constructive and it's enabling for the learners. Now, moving forward, the other option also is very important is, we spoke about this a little while ago, is creating breakout rooms. And a breakout room by its very definition means that you're sending 2 or 3 or a few learners into a particular environment, and you don't want them to be chaos in that room. All right, we all know what happens when you leave a physical classroom and go out, all right, all hell breaks loose. But in an online classroom, you want to ensure that you assign roles. So someone who will facilitate, someone who's keeping time, someone who's going to report like a team, someone who is ensuring that they have an eye on the time, and so on and so forth. So this is something to do also for monitoring breakout rooms. So all of this today brings us to the conclusion of what we've been discussing perhaps over this last hour or so, and that is interaction and various ways in which we can keep interaction high, exciting, motivating, and most importantly, learner-centric. So communication, questioning, building rapport are some of the, we've looked at some of these approaches and techniques, and of course, various other softwares and technologies like Kahoot and Bamboozle and augmented 3D reality, which are all great ways of learning. So this brings us to an end today. I'm sorry we've exceeded time a little bit, but I hope you understand that within the context of the topic, it's important not to break that chain of thought. So, which is why we thought interaction is an element where a lot of us can keep improving and keep getting better at. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at assessment, progression, and reflective practice.